Hi, I'm Kelly Baker Heffley, and this is Howard Garrett, and you are watching Democracy Download, talking about voting today.
Hey guys, it's Howard. Glad to be on with Kelly to talk about voting. Exciting
Hey,
conversation to have with you
it
today,
is a
Kelly.
very important one to have today. I have been receiving lots of phone calls, emails, and texts with lots of questions about voting. How about you, Howard?
Yes, it's been like a number one question for a lot of people emailing me, calling me about registering to vote, when is the deadline,
Mhm.
mail-in ballots is the number one hot topic at this moment.
For sure. I've gotten a lot of questions. There's a lot of confusion around mail-in ballots right now with, at one point we were all allowed to request a mail-in ballot, and then the court overturned that because the state of Tennessee took it to the Tennessee Supreme Court and they said no. In fact, I wrote it down because I wanted to get the exact wording. The fear of COVID is not a valid excuse for an absentee request in Tennessee, which, whew,
It's unfortunate.
it is unfortunate because I hate for us to risk our lives and our well-being to go
Yeah,
participate in democracy. So I
something that
know,
we've all worked so hard. Well, my ancestors worked so hard for to
yeah,
um, get us the right to vote, and it's just like a slap in the face that our legislators are continuing to hinder
for
that from
sure. Here we
happening.
are. We just celebrated 100 years of white women having the right to vote, and Tennessee was pivotal in making that a law across our nation. And yet we're once again fighting for safe voting. But with that said, we need to talk about voting right now. So
Yeah,
with the overturn at the Tennessee Supreme Court, we are not allowed to just have a generic request for an absentee ballot. You have to hit those excuses, you have to qualify. And again, wrote this down because it's pretty complicated. So excuses include being over the age of 60, if you're hospitalized, if you're out of town for the length of early voting and the day of voting with proof. You can't just say that you were and weren't. And then the Secretary of State said that voters who may be vulnerable to COVID-19 due to underlying health conditions should consult with the CDC's designation of underlying conditions, which, again, pretty vague there. The CDC website includes conditions such as cancer, heart conditions, type 2 diabetes, but the voter, not a physician, can make the decision if they are at an increased risk. And I believe the Secretary of State said something along the lines of use common sense.
yeah. I
So
think I also read something about that they're not even going to request a doctor's note.
it's not
Um,
required, but you
yeah,
still have to be pretty careful because,
absolutely.
as a mostly healthy individual who's not over the age of 60, and I don't have those qualifiers, I'm not pregnant, I'm not I don't hit the request or threshold, so I will have to go vote. Which brings me to an important point, and I think you've probably heard this, that the Democratic Party is urging all voters to vote in person early voting.
Yeah, I honestly I agree with that. Because of the uncertainty of the USPS system, I think it's more safer for you to get your ballot counted by early voting. I think I was watching clips of the DeJoy hearing today,
The head of the post
and
office.
yes,
Yeah.
and there's already, I can't think of the number, amount of people requesting ballots who haven't received them, who've already been lost
Mm-hmm.
in the mail, and there's no accountability for any of it. And I just think,
Right.
it's very strategic that all of this is happening right before November. And I think it's important that we go to early voting, because when you early vote, you don't have to wait in the long lines. It's hardly
Mm-hmm.
people there. People are working. Um, get away from the madness. Wear your mask. Have gloves on if that makes you more comfortable.
Bring your own
Have hand
pen.
sanitizer. Bring your own pen,
Mm-hmm.
and just go vote in person, because this election is so crucial, that every voice, every vote matters and needs to be counted.
For sure. And you remind me that of a particularly important point is if you do choose to absentee vote, and obviously, if you have reasons that you feel like that's the safest method for you to participate, people should do that if that's what they need to do. But if you do participate via absentee ballot, it has to be sent in USPS, FedEx, or UPS. It cannot be dropped off. I know there's some
Yep.
states that allow drop-offs, but our state is not one of them. So in Tennessee, you must mail it in. The absentee request deadline, I keep it on the side of my wall, is October 27th, but we encourage people to request them now and send them back. And there's actually a
Immediately.
tracker. I don't know if you knew this. I actually participated absentee for the primary in August. And there's a tracker at govotn.gov. So you can track to make sure your ballot has been received. If you don't send it back in time, if the tracker doesn't show that you got it there in time, you can actually go to the polling places, but you can't vote by on the machines. Do you know how you can participate?
No.
You request a provisional ballot. So
Okay.
everybody's entitled to request a provisional ballot. If you get to the polling place, you don't have your ID, you don't have the right, the right documentation. They say, hey, you requested an absentee, but you know that you never got it back to them. You can say, I need a provisional ballot. And there's some extra paperwork involved, but you are allowed to cast a provisional ballot. They will check all the stuff whenever they go to count them, and they will count that ballot at the end of the, it's not really until the end of the day, it's usually like the next day, especially if it's a close race. But provisional ballot. So even if you had your ballot, you never turned it in, you can go to the polling place and ask for provisional ballot. You cannot vote on the machines. So there's
and I just think, people will have their reasons for wanting to request a mail-in ballot. That's your business, and I respect that, and I'm here to support you. But I do encourage people to ensure that they are requesting it now. Don't wait to the last minute.
Right.
Don't make sure you keep up with it. And for the life is going crazy now, just go ahead and send it back in. But if in the event that you are able to go in person, just go. I know it's difficult. I know it's scary in these times around, but when you early vote, I can assure you that you will have so much peace in not being around so many people than waiting on election day. Just get it over with. I mean, I normally go within the first couple of days of early voting, and I'm literally walking in and walking out, not in any lines. Know where you need to go ahead of time.
Well, so here's a great thing. In Williamson County, you can go to any polling center.
Any polling.
You don't have to go to the one that's closest to you. And that's new, I believe, for this election. It might have been implemented the last cycle.
It was.
Yeah, especially with those alderman elections that we had last year. But yes, you can go to any polling center. You can go to the one that's closest to your work, closest to your grandma's house, closest to wherever. Just any place. Make sure you bring your ID. Early voting, October 14th through the 29th. So where do you normally go vote? Where's your
I go,
preference?
Mine is the church right by the golf course.
The First Presbyterian?
First
over
Presbyterian
by Legend?
Church.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
over by Legend. So that's where I normally go, and that's the closest one to me. So I always go there to vote.
I always go to the county complex for early voting.
Okay.
I've always lived within like a mile or so of the county complex. I'm in and out. There's something sort of magical about government buildings for me because I'm a dork like that. But I love voting there. I've never had to wait longer than like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm usually in and out within 10.
Yeah, same way. I'm even last year when I ran for office, I went and voted on election day. I mean, which was a local election, so it was a little slower, but I was literally in and out. Yeah. And so I just think it's beneficial to go on early voting because you never know what can happen. And when you have that opportunity to go, it's just easier to make that happen.
I agree. Well, you remember where to go if people need to register to vote or update their voter registration? What's the website?
Yes. The website is www.tn.
No, it's go vote.
Go vote. Yes.
TN.
Gov. Yeah. Okay.
You can register to vote. Looking at my cheat sheet here that I keep on the side of my desk. Last day to vote.
October 4th. 5th.
October 5th. So go vote TN.gov. You can check your voter registration status. You can check all your friends' voter registration status with their permission and their information. You can update your voter registration. You can check out ballots, find out who your elected officials are, and you can track your absentee ballot if you send it in. So
And
Early
I mean
voting.
the app is
The app
easy.
is great.
Online is
Yeah,
easy. Paper is there as well if it needs to be.
if need be. Yeah.
But
October 14th through the 29th, early voting. You again, Go Vote TN is also where you go. You can go through that to request an absentee ballot. The last day of absentee ballot requests, I believe we said October 27th. Got my cheat sheet, but we encourage people to, if they're going to request them early, and send them back early and go participate in early voting if that's available to you. Any last thoughts on these quick little update on voting?
no, just encouraging people to go vote. I mean, I don't I don't care who you vote for. It's just important that you go vote. Make sure your voice is being heard. This is a critical election, and it upsets me when people complain and they say, "But I'm not voting," or "I'm just going to sit this year out." And it's just like that is not the way to solve issues.
Right.
You put people in office who's the most sensible one, and then you hold them accountable to ensure that their promises are delivered and that they're representing you and your community. And that's how you ensure people or your policies or your beliefs are being heard, is by holding the people that you elected in office to represent you. That's from local elections all the
For
way up to
sure.
federal elections.
Yeah.
It's important that we let our voices heard and ensure that we hold them accountable to ensure that they are representing the communities in which they're serving.
Amen to that, Pastor Garrett. Well, I think for me, the most important thing is to make a plan, know when you're going to go vote, know how you're going to get there, do your research before you go vote, so that way you've got it ready.
Yes.
You can have your phone out if you have it listed on who you're voting on, but you can't go to the ballot box and do your research there. So do your research first. And then for me, one of my favorite things is just to email, call, text all my friends and say,
Yes.
show up to vote. Tennessee has horrible voter turnout, so just know every time you get one more person to show up, you're helping our voter turnout get better. So
Absolutely.
well, thanks, Howard. I'm looking forward to doing this again. And
Yes,
we'll come up
thank
with
you
some
so
new
much.
topics. And I think this was
I
a good
know.
first one. Hopefully, if anybody has any questions, they will put them in the comments section and we will answer
Yes.
those as needed, maybe do another video, and we'll see you next time. So that's
Guys, thanks so
Democracy
much.
Download
Thanks,
with
Kelly.
Howard and Kelly.
Yes, have a good night.